Conference Room 7 was the largest meeting space on the Hegemony flagship. Admiral Krath had chosen it to show the humans how small and insignificant they were. The room could hold 200 beings, but today it held only 12. 8 Hegemony officers sat on one side of the long metal table. 4 humans sat on the other. Captain Lee Taeho entered first, followed by 3 of his crew members. Dr. Park Hae-jin was a small woman with sharp eyes behind thin glasses. She carried a datapad and moved with the precise manner of a scientist. Lieutenant Commander Kim Do-won was young, maybe 30 years old, with the alert posture of a military officer. Chief Engineer Choi In-soo looked older, with rough hands and oil stains on his uniform. "Please sit," Admiral Krath gestured to the chairs across from him. His voice echoed in the large room. The humans sat down calmly. Captain Lee placed his hands flat on the table and looked directly at Krath. "Thank you for agreeing to this meeting, Admiral." "You said you had information about our previous conquests," Krath began. "Speak quickly." "My patience is limited," Lee nodded. "We have studied your expansion across this sector for the past 15 years. The Hegemony has absorbed 47 species into your collective. Each conquest followed the same pattern." "What pattern?" War Counselor Vex leaned forward with interest. Dr. Park spoke for the first time. Her voice was clear and confident. "You arrive with overwhelming force. You demand immediate surrender. Most species submit without fighting. Those who resist are crushed quickly by your superior numbers." "Efficient," Krath said. "Why waste time and resources on prolonged battles?" "Indeed," Lee agreed. "Very efficient. But we noticed something interesting about the species that joined you willingly." Kim Do-won activated a small holographic projector. Images appeared above the table showing star maps and data charts. "The Velkari submitted after seeing your fleet. Their technology was advanced, but they had no military tradition. The Thos Collective surrendered when you threatened their trade routes. The Zephyrians gave up when you blockaded their homeworld." "Your point?" Krath asked. "All of these species had something in common," Lee said. "They were peaceful. They had no experience with real war. When faced with your fleet, they saw only death and destruction." Choi In-soo spoke up in a gruff voice. "But humans are different." "Different how?" Vex asked. He was studying the holographic displays with growing concern. "We have been fighting wars for thousands of years," Lee explained. "Not just with weapons, but with ideas, economics, and technology. We understand that sometimes the best way to win a battle is to make your enemy think they have already won." Krath laughed. "You think you can trick us? Look around you, human. You are surrounded by my ships sitting in my conference room under my weapons. How exactly do you plan to win this battle? By not fighting it?" Lee replied calmly. The room fell silent. Dr. Park continued working on her datapad, apparently taking notes. Kim Do-won studied the holographic displays, occasionally making small adjustments. Choi In-soo just sat back in his chair, watching the alien officers with an expression that might have been amusement. "Explain," Vex demanded. Lee stood up slowly and walked to the large window that looked out into space. The view showed dozens of Hegemony ships arranged in perfect formation. "Tell me, Admiral, what do you know about human military history?" "Enough," Krath replied. "You fight each other constantly. Very inefficient." "True," Lee nodded. "But those constant conflicts taught us valuable lessons. For example, we learned that the side with the most ships does not always win." He turned back to face the table. 200 years ago, during our Third World War, the smaller Pacific Alliance defeated the much larger Continental Federation. The Federation had more soldiers, more ships, more weapons. But the Alliance had better technology and superior strategy. "Ancient history," Krath dismissed. "Or consider the Battle of New Midway." Lee continued as if Krath had not spoken. 50 human ships defeated a fleet of 300 rebel vessels. "How do you think that was possible?" Vex was now paying very close attention. "Superior technology?" "Partly," Dr. Park said, looking up from her datapad. "But also superior information. The human fleet knew exactly where the rebels would be and what their battle plans were. They used that knowledge to position themselves perfectly." "Information warfare," Kim Do-won added. "Humans excel at gathering and using intelligence." Krath was growing impatient. "What does any of this have to do with your current situation? You have 1 ship. I have 1,000. No amount of strategy changes those numbers." Lee returned to his seat. "You are correct. In a direct battle, we would lose instantly. That is why we are not here to fight a direct battle." "Then why are you here?" Vex asked. To give you a choice, Lee said. The same choice we gave the Pacific Federation during the Liberation War. Choi In-soo chuckled. They chose wrong. Dr. Park's datapad chimed softly. She glanced at it and made a note. Admiral Krath, may I ask about your fleet's communication systems? We are having some minor interference with our equipment. Standard quantum entanglement network, Krath replied automatically. All ships maintain constant contact through encrypted channels. Fascinating, Dr. Park said. We use a similar system, though ours operates on different frequencies. I hope our presence here is not causing any problems. No problems, the communications officer reported, all systems functioning normally. But Vex noticed something odd. Dr. Park had asked about their communications, and now she seemed very interested in her datapad. Every few seconds she would make another note or adjustment. Captain Lee, Vex said carefully. What exactly is this choice you mentioned? Lee folded his hands on the table. The hegemony can continue its expansion, absorbing species that cannot defend themselves. You will grow larger and stronger, but eventually you will encounter a species that can fight back effectively. When that happens, you will face a war that could destroy you. Or, Krath prompted, or you can join a different kind of alliance, one based on cooperation rather than conquest. The Terran Commonwealth has been discussing this possibility with several other species in this sector. Kim Do-won activated his projector again. New images appeared, showing star charts marked with different colored zones. These 17 systems have already agreed to form a mutual defense pact. Not to conquer other worlds, but to protect each other from outside threats. You want us to give up conquest? Krath asked in disbelief. We want you to consider the advantages, Lee replied. Conquest is expensive. You must build ships, train soldiers, fight battles, and then occupy hostile territory. Cooperation is much more efficient, Choi In-soo nodded. Cooperative species share technology, resources, and knowledge. Everyone benefits. The hegemony benefits from conquest, Krath argued. We take what we need from the species we absorb. But think of what you lose, Dr. Park said, looking up from her datapad again. The Velkari had advanced medical technology. The Thos Collective had incredible manufacturing capabilities. The Zephyrians developed unique energy systems. When you conquered them, you gained their resources but lost their innovation. Conquered species stop inventing, Kim Do-won explained. They become focused on survival rather than advancement. Their technology stagnates. Vex was beginning to understand. But cooperative species continue to develop new technologies. Exactly, Lee smiled. The Commonwealth has made more technological advances in the past 10 years than the hegemony has in the past 50. Krath stood up angrily. Enough of this nonsense. You come here with one ship and lecture me about efficiency? I have conquered 47 worlds with my methods. And we respect that achievement, Lee said calmly. But we also know that your expansion is slowing down. The remaining independent species in this sector are either too strong to conquer easily, or too primitive to be worth the effort. This was true, though Krath did not like hearing it said aloud. The hegemony's recent conquests had indeed been more difficult and less profitable. Dr. Park's datapad chimed again. She studied the screen with satisfaction. Captain, our technical survey is complete. Technical survey? Vex demanded. Standard procedure, Lee explained. When humans visit a new fleet, we automatically catalog technical specifications, energy signatures, and communication protocols. Purely for diplomatic purposes, of course. Krath felt a chill of suspicion. What kind of specifications? Ship classifications, weapon types, shield frequencies, that sort of thing, Dr. Park said casually. Nothing sensitive. Just basic information to help us understand your capabilities. Kim Do-won checked his own device. All data packets have been transmitted successfully, Captain. Transmitted where? Vex asked sharply. To our ship, naturally, Lee replied. The Eternal Dawn maintains a complete record of all diplomatic contacts. But Vex was no longer listening. He was thinking about the timing of Dr. Park's questions, the way she had asked about communication systems, and now this mention of data transmission. He activated his personal communicator. Bridge, this is War Counselor Vex. Run a complete scan of the human ship. I want to know exactly what they are doing. Sir, came the reply. We are detecting some unusual activity. The human vessel appears to be conducting active scans of our fleet. Krath's eyes narrowed. Scans of what kind? Admiral Krath terminated the meeting after discovering the human scanning activities. Captain Lee and his team returned to their ship under heavy guard. As the Eternal Dawn undocked from the flagship, Krath felt he had regained control of the situation. "They are clearly desperate," he told his War Council. "Gathering intelligence they cannot possibly use." War Counselor Vex disagreed. "Admiral, I recommend we destroy them immediately. Something about their behavior suggests they have a plan we do not understand." "What plan?" Krath demanded. "They have one ship with minimal weapons. They are outnumbered beyond any possibility of victory. Let them scan all they want. It changes nothing." But Vex was not convinced. He watched the tactical display as the Eternal Dawn began moving through the hegemony formation. Instead of heading for the edge of the system, the human ship was taking a course that would bring it close to several major vessels. "Admiral, they are not leaving," the sensor operator reported. Krath looked at the display. The human ship was indeed moving deeper into the formation, not away from it. "Where are they going?" "Unknown, sir. They appear to be touring our fleet." "Touring?" Krath could not believe what he was hearing. "Hail them immediately!" The hologram of Captain Lee appeared again. He was standing on what looked like an observation deck, with large windows showing the hegemony ships outside. "Admiral Krath," Lee said politely, "thank you again for the meeting. It was very educational. Where do you think you are going?" Krath demanded. "We are conducting a final inspection of your beautiful fleet," Lee replied. "With your permission, of course. We want to report back to Earth about the impressive force we encountered here." "You do not have permission to tour my fleet?" Krath said angrily. "Of course," Lee nodded. "We will leave immediately if you prefer. However, I thought you might appreciate the opportunity to demonstrate your power. When Earth hears about the size and sophistication of your fleet, they will understand the futility of resistance." This gave Krath pause. The idea of intimidating Earth through reports of hegemony strength was appealing. "Very well," he decided. "You may observe our ships, but maintain your distance and attempt no further scans." "Understood," Lee agreed. The hologram disappeared, and the Eternal Dawn continued its slow journey through the formation. Vex watched with growing unease as the human ship passed close to cruiser after cruiser, battleship after battleship. "What are they really doing out there?" he asked the sensor operator. "Difficult to say, sir. They are maintaining proper distance and not using active scanners. But they are definitely observing everything very carefully." On the bridge of the Eternal Dawn, Dr. Park Hee-jin worked at her science station with intense concentration. The touring maneuver was providing exactly the close-range data they needed. "Nanoprobe deployment is proceeding according to plan," she reported to Captain Lee. "We now have monitoring devices attached to 60% of their capital ships." Chief Engineer Choi Insu grinned from his position at the engineering console. "The probes are invisible to their sensors and drawing power directly from the host ships. We can monitor their communications, track their movements, and analyze their systems in real time." Lieutenant Commander Kim Do-won studied the tactical information flowing in from the nanoprobes. "Captain, their formation has several critical weaknesses. If we needed to, we could disable their entire command structure with a coordinated strike." "Let us hope it does not come to that," Lee replied. "But it is good to know we have options." Dr. Park looked up from her console. "The quantum analysis is complete. Their ship-to-ship communication network operates on a single primary frequency with 2 backup channels. If we can access the primary frequency, we can monitor or control communications across the entire fleet." "How long would that take?" Lee asked. "With the nanoprobes in place, about 15 minutes to establish full network access," Park replied. Choi In-soo checked his own displays. "The dark matter drive is charging normally. We will be ready for full activation in 30 minutes. Kim Do-won frowned at something on his screen. "Captain, I am detecting movement in the outer ships. Several squadrons are repositioning to surround us more completely." Lee activated the communication system. "Admiral Krath, I notice your ships are changing formation. Is there a problem?" Krath's image appeared on screen. Behind him, Vex was studying tactical displays with obvious concern. "Standard defensive positioning, Captain Lee, nothing for you to worry about." "I see," Lee replied. "Well, we have completed our observation tour. Your fleet is indeed impressive. Earth will be very interested in our report." "Good," Krath said. "Now leave this system immediately." "Of course. We will depart within the hour." The communication ended. Lee turned to his crew with a slight smile. Status report. Nanoprobes are in position on all major vessels, Dr. Park announced. We have complete intelligence on their capabilities, weaknesses, and communication protocols. Tactical analysis complete, Kim Do-won added. Their formation is designed to prevent escape, not to defend against internal threats. Engineering systems ready for full activation, Choi In-soo reported. All backup systems are online and functioning. Lee nodded with satisfaction. Very well. Send a coded transmission to Earth Command. Tell them Phase 1 is complete and Phase 2 is ready to begin. Message sent via quantum entanglement, Park confirmed. Earth acknowledges receipt and gives authorization to proceed. On the Hegemony flagship, Vex was becoming more agitated by the minute. Something about the humans' behavior continued to bother him. They were too calm, too confident for beings facing certain death. Admiral, he said to Krath, I strongly recommend we attack the human ship immediately. Why? Krath asked. They are leaving as ordered. They are not acting like a defeated enemy, Vex insisted. Look at their ship's movement pattern. Look at how calmly their captain speaks to us. This is not the behavior of beings who know they are going to die. Krath studied the tactical display. The Eternal Dawn was indeed moving with confidence, not fear. Its course was direct and purposeful, showing no signs of panic or desperation. Perhaps they are simply maintaining dignity in defeat, Krath suggested. Or perhaps they know something we do not, Vex countered. The communications officer interrupted their discussion. Admiral, we are detecting some unusual readings from the human ship. What kind of readings? Vex asked immediately. Power fluctuations, sir. Their energy output is increasing steadily. It is now far higher than normal for a diplomatic vessel. Vex felt his scales prickle with alarm. How much higher? Nearly triple normal output and still climbing. Krath finally began to look concerned. What could cause such power readings? Unknown, sir. Their reactor configuration does not match anything in our databases. On the Eternal Dawn, Choi In-soo was bringing the ship's true systems online. The diplomatic vessel appearance was just a disguise. Hidden beneath the peaceful exterior were technologies that the Hegemony had never encountered. Dark matter drive at 40%, he reported. Quantum disruptor fields are stable. Nanoprobe network is fully operational. Dr. Park's console lit up with incoming data. I have access to their primary communication network. I can now monitor all fleet communications and, if necessary, override their command protocols. Kim Do-won studied the tactical situation. All Hegemony ships are in optimal positions for what we need to do. Their tight formation actually works in our favor. Lee stood up from his captain's chair. Gentlemen, lady, it has been an honor serving with you. Are you ready to show the galaxy what humanity can accomplish? Ready, Captain, they replied in unison. Lee activated the fleet-wide communication system. His image appeared on every Hegemony ship simultaneously. Admiral Krath, War Counselor Vex, officers and crew of the Galactic Hegemony Fleet. This is Captain Lee Taeho. I want to thank you for your patience during our visit. Your cooperation has been essential to the success of our mission. On the flagship bridge, chaos erupted. How are they broadcasting on our secure channels? Krath demanded. Unknown, sir, the communications officer replied frantically. They seem to have complete access to our network. Lee's voice continued calmly from every speaker in the fleet. You asked why humanity sent just one vessel against your impressive fleet. The answer is simple. One vessel is all we need. Vex grabbed the nearest control panel. Weapons. Target the human ship. Fire immediately. But nothing happened. The weapons systems were not responding. Sir, the weapons officer reported in panic. I cannot activate our weapons. The control systems are locked out. Locked out how? Krath roared. Lee's image smiled from the main screen. Admiral, I told you that humans excel at information warfare. For the past hour, we have been demonstrating exactly what that means. Dr. Park's voice joined the transmission. Every ship in your fleet now contains nanoscale monitoring devices. These devices are connected to your computer networks, your communication systems, and your weapon controls. Kim Do-won appeared on screen next. Your fleet formation, while impressive for intimidation, creates a perfect environment for network-based warfare. Every ship is connected to every other ship. What affects one affects all. Choi In-soo's grinning face completed the group. And now, Admiral, you get to see what human engineering can really do. The transformation of the Eternal Dawn left the entire Hegemony fleet in stunned silence. What had appeared to be a simple diplomatic vessel was now revealing its true nature. Dark energy fields rippled along its hull, hidden weapon ports opened like metallic flowers. The ship's size seemed to increase as previously invisible sections materialized. "What is that thing?" Admiral Krath whispered, staring at the main display. War Counselor Vex was frantically working at his control station. "I cannot access any of our primary systems. Weapons, shields, engines, all showing lockout status. On every ship in the hegemony fleet, the same scene was playing out. Crews found themselves locked out of their own vessels. Communications worked only to receive the human broadcast. Nothing else responded to their commands." Captain Lee's voice filled the silence. "Admiral Krath, let me answer your question. You asked why humanity sent just one vessel against your fleet. The truth is, we did not send a vessel to fight you. We sent a vessel to capture you." Dr. Park's image appeared alongside Lee's. "The nanoprobes we deployed during our tour have now established complete control over your ship systems. Every vessel in your fleet is operating under our network protocols." The implications hit Vex like a physical blow. "You are not here to negotiate. You are here to steal our fleet." "Steal is such an ugly word," Lee replied calmly. "We prefer to think of it as a strategic acquisition. Your ships will be put to much better use under Commonwealth management." Krath found his voice again. "You cannot control 1,000 ships with 50 humans. It is impossible." Kim Do-won appeared on the screen. "Admiral, you are thinking in terms of traditional naval warfare. But this is not a traditional battle. This is what humans call cyber war. We do not need to crew your ships. We need only to control them." Chief Engineer Choi In-soo joined the display. "Each nanoprobe contains a quantum processing unit, more advanced than your ship's main computers. We now have distributed control over every critical system in your fleet." To demonstrate their point, the lights on the hegemony flagship dimmed and then brightened again. Throughout the fleet, similar demonstrations occurred. Gravity fields fluctuated. Life support systems cycled through different settings. The message was clear. The humans controlled everything. "This is an act of war," Krath declared. "No," Lee replied. "This is an act of prevention. War is what happens when diplomacy fails. We are here to ensure that diplomacy succeeds." Dr. Park activated a new display that appeared on every hegemony ship. It showed a tactical analysis of the fleet's current situation. "Your vessels are now operating under our command protocols. We can fly them, fight with them, or shut them down completely. The choice of what happens next is yours." Vex studied the display with growing horror. The analysis was completely accurate. Every ship, every weapon, every critical system was now under human control. "What do you want?" he asked. "The same thing we wanted when we arrived," Lee answered. "A peaceful solution to this crisis. The difference is that now we are negotiating from a position of strength." Kim Do-won manipulated his controls, and several hegemony cruisers began moving in perfect formation. They flew in a complex pattern that spelled out words in the ancient hegemony script: "Humanity greets the hegemony." "Stop this demonstration," Krath ordered. "Of course," Lee replied. The cruisers returned to their original positions. "We do not wish to be disrespectful. We simply wanted to ensure you understood the situation clearly." Choi In-soo was monitoring the engineering systems throughout the fleet. "Captain, their reactor outputs are stable. Life support is functioning normally on all vessels. No crew members have been harmed." "Good," Lee nodded. "Admiral Krath, I want to assure you that we have no intention of harming your people. This demonstration is meant to show capability, not to threaten lives." But Vex was beginning to understand something even more disturbing than the immediate situation. This was planned from the beginning. "You never intended to negotiate. You came here to take our fleet." "Actually," Dr. Park said, "we hoped negotiations would succeed. Taking control of your fleet was our backup plan. We much prefer cooperation to conquest." Lee's expression became more serious. "Admiral, the Commonwealth studied your expansion patterns for 15 years. We knew eventually we would have to deal with the hegemony. We could either wait for you to attack us or we could approach you first." "This is how you approach us?" Krath demanded. "By stealing our ships? This is how we ensure our conversation takes place as equals," Lee replied. "When we arrived, you had overwhelming military superiority. You could afford to ignore our proposals. Now we have equal capabilities. Now you must listen." Kim Do-won brought up a new display showing star charts of the local sector. "The Commonwealth has been preparing for this encounter since we first detected your expansion. We have studied every species you conquered, analyzed every battle you fought, and examined every technology you use." "How?" Vex asked. Dr. Park smiled. "Information warfare, remember? We have been intercepting your communications for over a decade. We know your tactics, your technologies, and your weaknesses," Choi In-soo added. "We also know your strengths. That is why we developed technology specifically designed to counter your advantages." The Eternal Dawn moved closer to the Hegemony flagship. As it approached, its true size became apparent. What had seemed like a 400-meter diplomatic vessel was actually much larger. Sections that had been invisible were now clearly visible, extending the ship to nearly a kilometer in length. "Stealth technology," Lee explained. "We hid our ship's true size and capabilities until we were ready to reveal them. The same way we hid our nanoprobes until they were in position." Vex was studying the tactical implications. "You have been planning this operation for years. Decades," Kim Do-won corrected. "The Commonwealth does not act hastily. We identified the hegemony as a potential threat in 2387. We have been preparing for this encounter ever since." "But why take our ships?" Krath asked. "If you wanted to stop our expansion, you could simply destroy us." Lee's expression softened. "Because, Admiral, we are not conquerors. We do not want to rule over you or destroy your people. We want to work with you." Dr. Park activated another display showing technical specifications. "Your ships represent centuries of engineering development. They are masterpieces of design and construction. It would be wasteful to destroy them when they could be used for peaceful purposes." "Peaceful purposes?" Vex asked skeptically. "Exploration, trade, research, and defense," Kim Do-won listed. "The galaxy is vast and full of wonders. Your ships could help us explore it together instead of fighting over who controls which part of it." Choi In-soo was monitoring the fleet's power systems. "Captain, all hegemony vessels are now operating at optimal efficiency. Our control systems are fully integrated with their technology." Lee nodded. "Admiral Krath, you now understand why we sent just one vessel. We did not need to match your numbers. We needed only to surpass your technology." The truth was finally clear. The humans had not come to fight a battle they could not win. They had come to fight a battle the hegemony could not win. By controlling the hegemony's own ships, they had turned the fleet's size from an advantage into a liability. "What happens now?" Vex asked quietly. "Now we negotiate as equals," Lee replied. "You have a choice to make. You can accept our proposal for a peaceful alliance, or you can attempt to resist our control of your fleet." "And if we resist?" Krath asked. Dr. Park's voice was gentle but firm. "Then you will discover why the Commonwealth has survived and thrived, while so many other species have fallen to conquest. We are very good at protecting ourselves." Kim Do-won added tactical information to the display. "Admiral, your fleet is now under our complete control, but we do not wish to keep it. We want to return it to you as part of a mutual defense pact." "You would give our ships back?" Vex asked in surprise. "Of course," Lee said. "But only after we reach an agreement about how they will be used. Ships designed for conquest can be redesigned for exploration. Weapons meant to destroy can be repurposed to protect." Choi In-soo grinned. "Besides, maintaining control over 1,000 ships is a lot of work. We would much rather have you maintain them yourselves as our allies." The offer was more generous than Krath had expected. The humans could have simply taken the entire fleet and left the hegemony powerless. Instead, they were proposing partnership. "Why?" Krath asked. "Why offer us alliance instead of simply defeating us?" Lee's answer was simple. "Because, Admiral, the strongest civilizations are not built through conquest. They are built through cooperation. We do not want subjects. We want partners." Dr. Park brought up one final display. It showed star charts marked with different colored zones representing various species and territories. The Commonwealth already includes 43 different species working together for mutual benefit. "We would like the hegemony to become the 44th. What would that mean for us?" Vex asked. Kim Do-won answered, "It means your ships would patrol Commonwealth space, protecting all member species from external threats. It means your people would have access to Commonwealth technology, education, and trade networks. It means you would help us explore new worlds instead of conquering them." 6 hours later, Admiral Krath signed the Commonwealth Alliance Treaty aboard the Eternal Dawn. The ceremony was broadcast to every ship in both fleets, marking the end of the galactic hegemony and the birth of something unprecedented in this sector of space. Article: 12 of the treaty grants all hegemony vessels immediate membership in the Commonwealth. Defense Fleet Captain Lee read aloud. Your ships will retain their current crews and command structures. Your officers will be integrated into the Commonwealth naval hierarchy based on experience and merit. War Counselor Vex, now designated as Liaison Officer Vex, studied the treaty terms with amazement. Our crews keep their ships, their ranks, and their positions? Of course, Dr. Park replied from her position at the science station. Experienced officers are valuable. Why would we waste that experience? Chief Engineer Choi In-soo was working with hegemony engineers to understand their ship systems. Your reactor technology is actually quite advanced, he told them. Different from ours, but very efficient. We can learn from each other. Lieutenant Commander Kim Do-won was coordinating with hegemony tactical officers to establish new patrol routes and defense positions. The Commonwealth border is now much larger, he explained. We will need your ships to help protect the outer systems. Admiral Krath watched these interactions with wonder. His officers were not being treated as conquered enemies. They were being welcomed as new colleagues. It was unlike anything in hegemony history. Captain Lee, Krath said, I must ask something that has been bothering me. How long have you been planning this specific operation? Lee considered the question carefully. The Commonwealth has been preparing for contact with the hegemony for 38 years. But this specific plan was developed only 6 months ago. 6 months? Vex asked in surprise. You accomplished all this in 6 months? Dr. Park smiled. The technology took decades to develop, but adapting it for your specific fleet configuration was relatively simple once we had detailed intelligence about your systems, which you gathered during your expansion phase, Kim Do-won added. Every species you conquered provided us with information about your tactics and technology. Choi In-soo looked up from his engineering discussions. The Velkari were particularly helpful. Their sensor technology allowed us to analyze your ships from several light-years away. Krath felt a chill of realization. You were studying us through our own conquests. We were preparing for this inevitable meeting, Lee corrected gently. The Commonwealth always knew we would encounter the hegemony eventually. We wanted that encounter to end in alliance rather than war. Vex was studying the star charts showing the new combined territory. The Commonwealth territory is enormous. How do you govern so many different species across such vast distances? We do not govern them, Lee replied. Each species governs itself. The Commonwealth exists to facilitate trade, share technology, and provide mutual defense. Dr. Park brought up a holographic display showing the Commonwealth's organizational structure. Each member species maintains full autonomy within their own territory. The Commonwealth Council, made up of representatives from all member species, makes decisions about issues that affect everyone. What kind of issues? Krath asked. Kim Do-won answered. Defense against external threats, trade regulations, technology sharing protocols, and exploration missions. Each species can participate as much or as little as they choose. This was radically different from the hegemony model. In the hegemony, all decisions came from the central command. Individual species had no autonomy once they were absorbed. How do you prevent conflicts between member species? Vex asked. The same way we prevented conflict between us today, Lee replied. Through negotiation, compromise, and mutual benefit. When everyone profits from cooperation, no one has reason to fight. Choi In-soo was still deep in technical discussions with the hegemony engineers. Your quantum drive systems could be adapted for much longer range exploration, he was saying. Combined with our stealth technology, we could explore regions of space that neither of us could reach alone. Dr. Park was sharing medical data with hegemony science officers. Your species' natural resistance to radiation could help us develop better protection for human crews in high-energy environments. Kim Do-won was coordinating defense plans with hegemony tactical officers. Your formation fighting techniques are excellent for large fleet actions. Our hit-and-run tactics work better for small unit operations. Together, we can handle any type of threat. Krath watched his people integrating with the Commonwealth crew and realized something important. For the first time in decades, his officers looked excited about their work. They were learning new things, sharing their own knowledge, and working toward goals larger than simple conquest. Captain Lee, Krath said, may I ask about the other ships you mentioned? You said this was one of 12 identical vessels. Lee nodded. The Commonwealth maintains a small fleet of vessels like the Eternal Dawn. Each one is capable of the operation we conducted here today. 12 ships that could each capture a 1,000-ship fleet, Vex asked with new respect. If necessary, Dr. Park confirmed, but we prefer not to use them for that purpose. They are exploration vessels first, diplomatic ships second, and weapons of war only as a last resort. Choi and Soo grinned. Though they are pretty impressive weapons when we need them to be. Kim Do-won was reviewing the integration schedule. Admiral Krath, your fleet will need approximately 2 weeks to complete the technological upgrades for Commonwealth compatibility. During that time, we will conduct joint training exercises and cultural exchange programs. Cultural exchange? Krath asked. Learning about each other's customs, foods, entertainment, and social structures, Lee explained. Military alliance is just the beginning. True cooperation requires understanding. Dr. Park activated a new display showing images from various Commonwealth worlds. Each species in the Commonwealth has contributed something unique to our collective knowledge. Art, music, literature, cuisine, philosophy, and recreation. The images were beautiful. Vex saw cities that blended architectural styles from dozens of different species. Parks where beings from various worlds walked together peacefully. Markets where exotic goods from across the galaxy were traded freely. This is what you are offering us? Vex asked quietly. This is what we are offering to build together, Lee corrected. The Commonwealth did not create this overnight. It took generations of cooperation to reach this point. Krath stood and walked to the observation window. Outside, he could see hegemony and Commonwealth ships working together to establish communication networks and coordinate patrol schedules. His crews were talking with human officers, sharing technical information, and even laughing together. In all my years of conquest, Krath said slowly, I never saw my people this happy. Lee joined him at the window. Conquest gives a sense of accomplishment, but cooperation gives a sense of purpose. Your people are discovering that their skills and knowledge are valued, not just feared. Choi and Soo approached them with a data pad. Captain Admiral, I wanted to show you something interesting. The hegemony engineers have identified 17 improvements we can make to our stealth systems. In return, we are sharing our nanoprobe technology with them. In 6 hours, they found 17 improvements? Krath asked in amazement. Different perspectives lead to different solutions, Dr. Park explained. That is why diversity makes us stronger. Kim Do-won was coordinating with the Commonwealth Council through quantum communication. Captain, Earth wants to know when Admiral Krath and his senior staff can visit the Commonwealth capital for the formal alliance ceremony. Whenever the Admiral is ready, Lee replied. Krath considered this. Visiting Earth would mean leaving his fleet under Commonwealth protection while he traveled to an unknown world. It was an act of trust that would have been impossible hours ago. I would be honored to visit your capital, Krath decided. Vex stepped forward. Admiral, I would like to accompany you. I'm very curious about Commonwealth governance structures. Excellent, Lee smiled. Dr. Park will be returning to Earth as well. She can serve as your guide to Commonwealth society. Dr. Park bowed slightly. It will be my pleasure to show you our worlds, Admiral. As the eternal dawn prepared to depart for Earth, Krath reflected on the day's events. He had awakened that morning as the commander of a conquest fleet. He was ending the day as a partner in the largest alliance in this sector of space. Captain Lee, he said as they prepared to transfer to the Commonwealth transport, I have one final question. What would have happened if we had chosen to fight instead of negotiate? Lee's answer was honest. We would have disabled your fleet, transported your crews to a safe world, and sent your ships to Commonwealth shipyards for conversion to exploration vessels. The result would have been the same, but the process would have been much less pleasant. And you would have done this to 1,000 ships with just one vessel? If necessary, Lee confirmed. But we are very glad it was not necessary. Choi and Soo was running final system checks on the transport. All aboard for Earth, he called out cheerfully. As the transport departed the fleet, Krath looked back at the 1,000 ships now flying in Commonwealth formation. The communication room of the Hegemony flagship buzzed with excitement. Admiral Krath's 6 eyes focused on the holographic display showing intercepted human transmissions. His thick, scaled fingers drummed against the metal table as he read the decoded message for the 3rd time. They are sending what? He asked his communications officer. Just one ship, Admiral, the officer replied, his voice filled with disbelief. The humans received our demand for surrender 3 days ago. Their response is to send a single vessel called the Eternal Dawn. Admiral Krath leaned back in his command chair. Around him, his war council murmured among themselves. Some laughed. Others shook their heads. The hegemony had conquered 47 star systems in the past decade. Never had they faced such a foolish response. One ship, Krath repeated slowly. Against our entire battle fleet. War Counselor Vex stepped forward. Unlike the others, he was not laughing. His yellow eyes showed concern. Admiral, perhaps this is a trick. Humans are known for their strange tactics. What trick could they possibly have? Krath stood up, his massive frame towering over the others. We have 1,000 warships. They have one. The mathematics are simple. The communication officer raised his hand. Admiral, there is more. The human ship is requesting safe passage through our outer patrols. They want to meet with you directly. They want to surrender in person, another council member said. How noble of them. Krath studied the tactical display. Red dots showed his fleet positions around the human colony world of New Sol. His ships formed a perfect blockade. Nothing could escape. The single blue dot representing the human vessel seemed almost laughable in comparison. Tell me about this ship, Krath ordered. The intelligence officer stepped forward with a datapad. The Eternal Dawn is classified as a diplomatic vessel by human records. Length 400 meters. Crew, approximately 50 humans. Armament, minimal defensive systems only. A diplomat ship? Krath's laugh boomed through the room. They send diplomats to face our war fleet? The ship's commander is listed as Captain Lee Tae-ho, the officer continued. Former military, now serving in the Human Diplomatic Corps. No significant battle experience in the past 5 years. Vex frowned. Something feels wrong about this, Admiral. In all our conquests, no species has ever responded this way. They either surrender immediately or gather their entire fleet for a final battle. This is different. Different how? Krath asked. They are weak. They know they cannot fight us, so they send their diplomat to beg for mercy. But why just one ship? Vex pressed. Humans have colonies in 12 star systems. They have a fleet. Where are their warships? The communications officer checked his screens again. Our long-range sensors detect no other human military vessels in this sector. Their main fleet appears to be defending their home system, Earth. See? Krath pointed at the display. They abandoned this colony to save themselves. Typical human cowardice. Vex was not convinced. He had studied human history during the hegemony's intelligence-gathering phase. Humans did not abandon their own easily. Something about this situation made his scales itch with worry. Admiral, the sensor operator called out, the human vessel has just dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of our formation. All eyes turned to the main display. The tactical screen updated, showing a small ship appearing exactly where the humans had said it would. The Eternal Dawn looked tiny compared to the massive hegemony vessels surrounding it. Magnify, Krath ordered. The screen zoomed in on the human ship. It was sleek and white with blue markings along its hull. Solar collectors spread like wings from its sides. It looked more like an exploration vessel than anything meant for war. They are hailing us, the communications officer reported. Put them through, Krath said. He wanted to see the face of the human who thought one ship could stand against his fleet. The hologram flickered, then resolved into the image of a human male. He wore a simple blue uniform with captain's insignia. His black hair was neatly combed and his dark eyes showed no fear. This was Captain Lee Tae-ho. I am Admiral Krath of the Galactic Hegemony, Krath announced. You are surrounded and outgunned. Surrender immediately. Captain Lee bowed slightly. Admiral Krath, I am Captain Lee Tae-ho of the Terran vessel Eternal Dawn. I come to discuss the terms you sent to our colony. There are no terms to discuss, Krath replied. You will surrender unconditionally or we will destroy your ship and bombard your colony from orbit. I understand your position, Lee said calmly. However, I believe there may be options we have not yet explored. Would you be willing to grant me an audience? 1 hour of your time to present an alternative to bloodshed. Krath's council members whispered among themselves. The human's calm manner was unexpected. Most species begged or threatened at this point. This captain simply asked for a meeting. You have nothing to offer us, Krath said. Your ship is defenseless. Your colony has no orbital defenses. What could you possibly say that would interest me? Information, Lee replied. About your previous conquests. About the species you have absorbed into your hegemony. I believe you will find our perspective educational. Vex stepped closer to Krath's chair. Admiral, what harm could there be in listening? If they try any tricks, we can destroy them instantly. Krath considered this. The human showed no signs of deception or desperation. In fact, he seemed almost relaxed, as if having tea rather than facing annihilation. It was curious. Very well, Krath decided. You may approach our flagship. Any hostile action will result in your immediate destruction. Understood. Lee nodded. We are transmitting our approach vector now. Thank you for your time, Admiral. The hologram disappeared. Krath stared at the empty space where the human's image had been. Something about Captain Lee bothered him, though he could not identify what. Prepare the docking bay, he ordered. Full security protocol. I want guards posted at every entrance. Should we scan their ship for weapons? The security chief asked. Of course, but I doubt they have anything that could threaten us. As the Eternal Dawn began its approach to the Hegemony flagship, Vex studied the tactical display. The human ship moved smoothly through the formation of alien vessels. Its course was direct and confident, showing no signs of fear or hesitation. Admiral, Vex said quietly, I recommend we remain on high alert. This feels too easy, Krath waved him off. You worry too much, old friend. What could one small ship do against our entire fleet? On the display, the Eternal Dawn continued its steady approach. Its hull gleamed in the light of the system star, and its solar collectors adjusted automatically to maintain power flow. To most observers, it looked like exactly what the humans claimed. A simple diplomatic vessel crewed by 50 humans who knew they were outmatched. But Vex noticed something the others missed. The ship's energy readings were strange. For a diplomatic vessel, it was generating a lot of power, more power than its size should allow. Communications, have you completed your scan of the human ship? Vex asked. Yes, sir. The results are unusual. Unusual how? The officer looked confused. Well, sir, the ship appears to be exactly what they claim. Diplomatic vessel, minimal weapons, standard crew quarters. But our deep scans cannot penetrate the lower hull sections. There appears to be some kind of interference. Interference from what? Unknown, sir. It could be exotic matter storage, experimental shielding, or simply dense metal construction. Without a detailed inspection, we cannot be certain. Vex's worry grew stronger. Humans were known for their unpredictable technology. They had developed faster-than-light travel independently, something that had taken the hegemony centuries to achieve. They also had unusual approaches to engineering that other species found difficult to understand. Admiral, Vex said, I recommend we postpone this meeting until we can conduct a thorough scan of their vessel. Nonsense, Krath replied. They are already in our docking bay. Besides, what could 50 humans do against a crew of 10,000? The docking clamps engaged with a solid thunk that echoed through the flagship's hull. Security teams took their positions around the airlock. Sensors monitored every movement as the human delegation prepared to come aboard. They are requesting permission to bring a small diplomatic party, the security chief reported. 4 humans total. Granted, Krath said. Escort them to conference room 7, full security presence. As the airlock cycled open, Vex felt a chill run down his spine. Something was wrong with this entire situation. Humans did not give up easily, and they certainly did not send diplomatic missions into hopeless situations without a plan. But what plan could they possibly have? 1 ship against 1,000. 50 humans against 10,000 aliens. The numbers made no sense, unless the numbers were not what they seemed. Vex made a mental note to watch Captain Lee very carefully during the coming meeting. In his experience, when something seemed too simple, it usually was.